Hello. Well, another long delay since I last uploaded. What I've been mainly doing is painting the headstock and various other things. I'm afraid painting just takes a hell of a long time. So I got it into the workshop fairly easily. And then my friend Dick came yesterday and we got the engine crane in here. So now I'm ready to put the headstock back on the lathe bed. But before I do that, I want to install the feed gearbox down here, because there was such a lot of trouble getting it off because of this damn fool thing that sticks up here, that I thought I'll put the feed box on before I put the headstock on. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to pull this pulley off. I just want to see exactly where it's sat. 1.4. 1.4. So it says 1.4 millimeters. Proud of the end of the shaft. This is coming off. Come on. Right. I'm only taking this off just so that I can clean this and see whether it needs painting or whatever. And we have a nice Woodruff key here, which we mustn't lose, obviously. Well, I'm just going to give this a bit of a wash down with petrol. Well, I put the headstock down on its front where the knobs are normally, so that I can have a look at the base. This is the bit that fits onto the lathe bed. This is the headstock end of the bed, and it's lying on its side, so that's the top. And the feed and change gearbox bolts in here with a joint washer where these blue things are. But what interested me is you can see very clearly there where gears appear to have been rubbing on here. I did some measurements on the gearbox itself, try and find out what gears were rubbing, but I couldn't actually kind of identify it. So I don't know quite what I'm going to do about that. This recess here is also a bit of a mystery. Whether it was designed to avoid a rubbing gear, or whether it's some kind of vent, which wouldn't be very desirable in my opinion, I'm not sure. It's kind of questions one can't answer without refitting the gearbox. I've just been test fitting this gearbox for two reasons. Firstly, I suspected that one of the gears was actually wearing on the side of the bed, so I wanted to check that that was not the case, or if it was the case, which one and why. And secondly, because I wasn't totally clear how to seal up the top edge of this. So I'm just trying all positions of these knobs. and then I'm going to look at the paint on the bed and see whether any of it is scratched. We can see here that the joint washer comes up to this corner here, so the sealant needs to cover this part along here, and similarly down there to here. Right, I'm going to take it off again now and see what's what. That's it. Well, it didn't scratch the paint at all, which is good. So that's fine. Well, how beautiful is that? I think it's pretty damn beautiful. I can't begin to tell you how annoying this is. I mean, I made a new gasket for that feed gearbox. You've just seen it. And I had to move so much around in here and in the workshop and move stuff into the house to make space to put the lathe through that door. I've lost this bloody gasket. I don't know where it is. I've looked everywhere. I don't want to have to make another one because I haven't got enough flexoid paper left to make that. It's so annoying. Alright, I found this joint washer in the end, and I smeared both sides of it with Hylamar as a kind of belt and braces approach. Probably it'd be perfectly okay to fit it dry, but I'd rather not take the risk. Right, well, I thought a bit about what kind of sealant I should use for this, and I couldn't decide in the end. I thought about RTV silicone, but decided that it was either expensive or not appropriate. Anyway, in the end I'm using this hybrid polymer sealant, which suggests it's primary for building, but actually it's also for marine use. Thank you. Right. So I'm just going to put it on here. And hope for the best. I'm no good with putting sealant on, really. I think that will do. Where's the cap for this? I only took it off 5 seconds ago. Where is the cap for this bastard? How can this happen? How does this happen? Here it is. Right, you bastard. It'll still completely solidify in there anyway, so I don't know why I'm worried about that. Right, so that sealant should mate on here and along here and there. That's what I hope. So now what we can do is put it on and hope for the best. least that's got one on. I don't have the sensation that that's going in. Yes, it is. That's not long enough for that. Right, these three go in here. Right, well, we have no torque spec for anything on this lathe, so I'm just going to do it up roughly, whatever seems sensible to me, and then I'm going to tighten it tomorrow when the hammer has had time to to spread itself around. I'm not quite sure what solvent deals with hybrid polymer sealants, but this is going to have to do. So there's the sealant on one corner, and there it is along the top, and that's the other corner. I think that's all right, and of course there's a lot more sealant inside of what you can't see. Well, it's the next day. The recommended tightening torque for M8 socket head cap screws is something between 24 and 33 Newton meters, depending on whether they're 8.8 or a higher grade. So I put this at 25. I can't use anything shorter because a shorter one is too short. But I think I had the torque wrench on too high a setting by mistake. Goodness me. That's going to have to do. The oil for the feed gearbox was specified as Shell Vitria 72, and apparently this is the modern equivalent. So, right, it says it should take half a litre. This is a litre bottle, so about half of it. Can't see any oil at all in the sight glass yet. It's twice as much as the supposed capacity, but we still don't have any oil in the sight glass. Oh, yeah, it's coming. It is at last coming. Well, slightly more than the prescribed amount. I was wondering whether to fit the headstock onto here completely dry, or whether to put a little oil on it, because there's nothing to protect it from rusting afterwards, is there? The oil won't stay there for very long anyway. So I decided to just put a light coating of whey oil on here. On the theory that that it'll squeeze out anyway when I do the bolts up. Right, so it's all clean. And it goes this way. That's on there, but it's not, it's too far forward. Can I tap it back? Do this front one a little bit. Why doesn't that bolt want to go in? can't remember whether I cleaned out these threads. Driving me nuts. This is just a pain, a considerable pain, a complete stupid arrangement, if you ask me. I've already cut something off this Allen key just to enable me to get in here. And I took it apart. This is interesting. It's fully on this V-way here, and it's fully on this flat way here, but it is not on this V-way hardly at all. I'll try and show that to you. If I get it at the right angle. There. You see that? You can see right the way through. And it's not resting on that at all, but it is firmly on here. That's slightly odd, considering that this V-way is the one that is at the front and therefore is the one the saddle is riding on. But there's nothing stopping it going down except the fact that it's bedded on here. I mean, there's plenty of clearance under this point here, and under this, between the bottom of the headstock and the top of the gearbox. No problem there. It's just the way the thing is arranged. I was a bit alarmed by this discovery, and so I went back to some of the old videos when I was taking the thing apart, just to make sure that I'd got the headstock back in the same position as it was before I took it off. And I think these photos more or less show that it is in the same position, but because the lathe originally was quite dirty, you can't really see much detail. If we go back to the lathe bed as it was immediately after I'd removed the headstock, you'll remember that there was rather crude scraping on this flatway here, and we were speculating that maybe that scraping was just to to give clearance so that the headstock rested on this V-way rather than on this flatway. Well, that obviously cannot be true now that we've discovered that it's actually resting on this flatway and this V-way. So I conclude that this scraping was done in order to align the headstock in the vertical plane so that the spindle is parallel to the ways. And if that were done, one would expect that possibly there might also be scraping somewhere along this V-way, and I think you can see that there probably was some here. So I think that's okay, and the fact that it's bearing on the 4 places where the bolts go through suggests that that is the right way for it to bear. It wouldn't be sensible for it to be bearing up here and for you to be tightening a bolt with clearance, because that would put the cast iron under a stress, wouldn't it? Also, if we go back to looking underneath the headstock, this is the bottom of the headstock, and the front is at the bottom here. So these V-ways are the front V-ways, and these are the V-ways on which it is resting. It's resting on here, 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 and here, and I can just see daylight through here. Well, that looks perfectly sensible, doesn't it? We've got a significant V-way where it's resting, and this one is just a clearance cut. It would be highly undesirable for all the weight and force on the headstock to be resting on such a small thing as these two little V-ways here. So for all these reasons, I think the way it is now is correct. It's beginning to look quite nice. I didn't paint that very well. There's a bare metal under there. I think I forgot to prime it, so it came off with the masking tape. Have to fix that. I can't fit this bottom plate on yet because it covers up this hole, and I need access to this hole to fiddle with this downfall linkage which connects to one of the shafts that I can only install when I put the apron on, and I can't put the apron on yet because I haven't cleaned the saddle. So that's where we are at the moment.